So I just want to make sure we get straight to those. So our first paper today is being presented by Anna-Katharina Höpflinger, a researcher and teaching assistant at the Ludwig-Maximilians-Universität in Munich. After completing her PhD in the study of religion at the University of Zurich, Switzerland, she's developed multiple research projects in the field of media and religion. She's focused primarily on the body, clothing, and gender. She's also interested in religions of the ancient world and European history, in heavy metal and religion, and my favorite note from her description, in charnel chapels. So today, Anna will be presenting her paper, To Hades and Back, a reflection on the reception of religious symbols in metal. Before Anna gets going, please note content warnings for death, religion, and the uncontrollable. Anna, whenever you are ready, you can start your screen share.
Thank you so much. Yes, I'm ready. Thank you so much for the introduction, for the organization of this whole conference, and I'm so excited to be here. So I'll try to share my screen just with music and of course with optimized video clips. Does it work? Because I can't see you now anymore.
Yes,
so
it looks to be working.
Okay, please shout if it doesn't work. So yes, To Hades and Back. First, I wanted to speak about the netherworld, but I changed it a little bit. So I want to make a more theoretical approach and speak about the reflection on the reception of religious symbols in metal. And I will do it in 5 points. So it's really a little bit more theoretical. Now, our conference deals with metal and global pre-modernity. And I think as a first point, it's really interesting to note that, at least here in Europe, I'm at the moment in Switzerland, in the public sphere, and not really in academia, but in the public sphere, there was and still is a prevailing tendency to view pre-modernity as really closely linked to religion. While in contrast, the idea is that the modernity holds something a little more a distance to religion. Now, it's Charles Taylor, the famous philosopher. He sums it up in a quote like this. I just quote him. Why was it virtually impossible not to believe in God in, say, 1500s in our Western society, while in 2000, many of us find it not only easy, but even inescapable? Now, of course, this is an idea and not really historically graspable. It's not a historic truth. It's really an idea. But in our cultural, perhaps European imaginary, pre-modernity is something that's connected somehow to religion. Now, I think this idea is related to various points. And among others, it's an idea of modernity, of the processes of identity that are connected to an idea of modernity. Perhaps the search for identity in this concept of modernity in contrast to something earlier. And it's, of course, really a European view. So we have here also a sort of thinking about the space where this is discussed. Then secondly, it's connected to concepts of pre-modernity. And I think we will be talking about this again and again during this conference. So it's just a question here. But thirdly, this idea is also connected to concepts of religion. So what is religion that pre-modernity seems to be so religious? And I would like to focus now on this third point. And I want to show now how important pre-modern religious symbols are for metal, and also a little bit how metal is crushing this idea of secular modernity and the religious pre-modernity. So metal is a good example to show that this idea is perhaps not so historically graspable at all. So my question for this presentation are, how does metal as a, and now I know the discussions will start, but perhaps postmodern phenomenon or anti-modern phenomenon, we can speak about that later, but how does metal as a postmodern phenomenon reflect pre-modern religion? And what is the function of these pre-modern religious symbols of metal? So I want to really speak now only about the reception of religious symbols in metal, and not, for example, of religious feelings and so on, with two examples. So point 2. This reception of religious symbols in metal is, as I think, very complex. And this reception was and still is in debate. It's often a debate about the meaning of religious symbols in metal and about the seriosity of them. For example, I think you all know it, but in the moral panic of the 1980s that came up in USA, for example, in the 1985 with the Parents Music Resource Center of Tipper Gore and her colleagues, it was a debate how to understand these religious symbols that are used in hard rock and the metal culture of this time. So it was a question of how seriously religious symbols were meant in metal. And then they also published the so-called Filthy 15, the 15 most evil songs, and 9 of them are metal or hard rock. So it was a question how religious symbols are used, and I know used is a little bit a difficult word here, but I use it, are used in metal. Now, of course, religious symbols can be referred in metal in an affirmative way, for example, Muslimic metal, pagan metal, Christian metal, and so on. And here I just want to mention a short example because I love this example so much. And that's the Indonesian band, Voice of Bass Prod. It's an all-female band. They have published a song with the title "God, Allow Me Please to Play Music." The whole song is a prayer to God, but in an interview they explain why they did pray to God in this song, and I just want to show a short extraction of a YouTube clip. Oh, sorry.
God allow me please to play music. Panjang banget. Terus itu isinya kayak singkatnya aku minta izin ke Tuhan buat main musik karena manusia banyak yang bilang musik itu haram. Jadi aku langsung aja minta izinnya ke Tuhan.
So yes, that I really love this because it's so pragmatic. It's a debate about should they play music or not, and what the band does is they just ask God. So here we have this affirmative way, but of course religious symbols can be used in metal in a critical way. You all know nihilistic metal, atheistic metal, and so on. But I think mostly it is neither, and it's much more complex. And I would like now to use an example to briefly illustrate the processes of how pre-modern religious symbols are used in metal. And I will do it with a very famous band and a very famous song, and with very famous references to the Bible, because we all know them and they are, well known. So I want to use here now Iron Maiden, with the new song they have, The Writing on the Wall. We can hear the song for 30 seconds, just that you know the song, but as a reminder. yes, as I said, I suppose that you know the song. Now, both the lyrics and the video clip to this song refer to biblical narratives. Both address on the one side the apocalypse. So we have references to the book of Revelation, the New Testamental book of Revelation. For example, in the video clip we see, also in the lyrics we read or hear the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. In the clip they are 4 bikers, so it's a little bit modernized with references to the whole popular culture, to films that do it in that way also. But the title here, The Writing on the Wall, and the refrain, and here also this film still that you see here refers to the story of Belshazzar and the writing on the wall in the book, the Old Testament book of Daniel in chapter 5. This writing on the wall is sent perhaps by God, and it's promising the downfall of the kingdom of this king. So the whole clip is, the topic of the clip is an apocalyptic world, a critique of our modern lifestyle perhaps also. But I think the ending is very interesting, because in the ending we see a scene where 2 persons, a man and a woman, in a very heteronormative way also, they are created and they flee this apocalyptic world. And then we see this symbol of an apple that the Eddie, this band, logo, or how did we, I don't know the English word here, gives them. So we have here, the clip ends with a new creation of man, woman, a new fall of man perhaps, or perhaps in this case also a new moment of hope, because the world is not ending here. This is indicated by the symbol of the apple, a symbol that's in itself not biblical, but medieval. So what we have here is a very complex network of different religious symbols that are used, combined in a new way, and they form, as I think, a new sort of mythology, but with a reference to pre-modern mythology. The Bible is a pre-modern text. Now, we can ask, what is the function of this reception of pre-modern religious symbols in metal? And I would make some short thoughts here. I would like to think a little bit about my concept of religion. Now, religion is dealing, as I think, or in this definition, with the transcendent. Now, the transcendent is something that goes beyond the everyday sensually perceptible and controllable experiences. So with transcendence, I understand the things that we can't grasp in our everyday life, but these things that go beyond this sort of things that are not always controllable for us. Now, this transcendence in this way is thinkable, of course, but it's communicated symbolically. For example, a good example here is death, because we can look at people that are dying, of course, but we can't grasp death, not as a concept and not as a feeling and not as an idea. So we can communicate death symbolically, for example, as a skeleton, as an idea of an afterlife world, and so on. So this transcendence is communicated symbolically. Now, these symbols that communicate these uncontrollable aspects of life, they are, of course, culture and time specific. They are worked out in specific contexts. But at the same time, they are subject to broad reception processes. They are transferred, changed, adapted to new contexts. And of course, they also change their meaning and their interpretations. So these symbols are open for new interpretations and adaptations in new contexts. Now, of course, we can ask, why are these pre-modern religious symbols so common in metal? It seems that they are everywhere. or not everywhere. Of course, there are, for example, metal bands that might sing about brushing teeth or something like that. But I think often metal deals somehow with religious symbols, and they are often pre-modern religious symbols. Now, I would answer this question. That's really a hypothesis. We can discuss it. That metal also deals with these transcendent or uncontrollable areas of life. For example, as I said, of course, there are bands that are singing about, I don't know, getting the train. But mostly bands are, the topics they are dealing with is, for example, death, war, violence, strong emotions, transcendent experiences, inner psychological challenges, and so on. So often these topics are somehow in this uncontrollable aspect of life. And now you see my argument. The traditional language, as I would say, for this field is a religious one. So metal uses here, to say it very simple, the traditional language to express these transcendent realms of life. And that's why I think metal adapts these religious symbols to express all these fields that are uncontrollable in the life of human beings. And of course, that's not only my idea. I refer here just two nice books, a book and an article. I want to refer on Fritz Stolz. He was a scientist of religion. And the book is only in German, I'm sorry. But the second one from Stefanie Knaus, The Journey of a Symbol Through Western Imaginaries, The Curious Case of the Apple. She follows the apple as a symbol that's very strong, not in metal, but in popular culture. Now, what I think is really exciting by looking on metal is that metal can form new myths or new mythological ideas based on these pre-modern religious symbols, in adapting them, using them in a new context, forming new networks of different symbols. So I think also metal, what metal does is metal uses in somehow these pre-modern transcendent thoughts to reflect modern problems, as we saw a little bit with the Iron Maiden example already. And I want to show this with a last example. It's the example of shamash. Shamash itself is a pre-modern religious symbol because it's a reference to the Mesopotamian god of sun. Now, it's a Swiss band, a Swiss black metal band, and they have a song I think is really interesting with this focus on new mythologies. The song's title is A Paradigm of Beauty from 2019. The lyrics of this song refer to a transcendental birth, perhaps a birth of a god or the human beings. We could discuss that. But the video clip of this song shows mythological vision from creation to the apocalypse, from the beginning of the world to the end of the world, and all in blood red. And I just want to show some slides from their video now. And of course, 30 seconds of the song. So as I said, this video clip is making a journey, a vision, I think religious vision from creation to the end of the world. Here we see at the beginning this creation of the world. Then it shows some civilization. I would say it's a reference also to Babylon, to all these things. Perhaps it's the world of gods. Then we see the creation of life, the creation of man, the man as the male human being. It's really here also this biblical reference, because you see first the man and then the woman. It's the creation of the woman. Then that's really interesting. At the end, we see this sort of imaginary that refers to a heart of Jesus motive. That's a motive that's already medieval, but became very popular in the Counter-Reformation and then in the 19th century. So we have here a messianic vision, perhaps referring to a Jesus or a sort of Messiah figure. And then in the end, an apocalypse and the ending. So just to conclude, I think Metal, as the fifth point, is elaborating premodernity in a very multi-model way on different levels of media, of symbols, often creating a new mythological idea. And Metal takes part in forming and distributing knowledge about religion, premodernity, the contemporary, and also the interrelation between them. So Metal is not only using religious symbols, but it's also creating new knowledge about it. So thank you very much for your attention.